Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday, brought to you by Idaho Public Television and Montana PBS.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second week of Tech Talk Tuesday in January. We're excited again to have with us Darcy Backyard and Michelle Blanchette to talk a little bit more. We kind of alluded to this last week. We're going to talk more about the Educator Canvas, which they're going to kind of tell you the idea behind that. It's in their book, The Startup Teacher, and also available on their website at the Educators Lab. So I'm going to let them take it away and explain a little more about the Educator Canvas.
Yes, so it's called the Startup Teacher. So sometimes people assume it's for business teachers or it's for pre-service teachers. It's not. It is called the Startup Teacher because we just kind of took some ideas that we love from the social startup world and adapted them for teachers. So just to give a little context, in case you're unfamiliar with social entrepreneurship or social startups, basically it's businesses where the goal is to make an impact over making a lot of money, and so we love this model. There are people who come from every walk of life and are just using like business principles to solve a problem and to do something. So it's a really positive space. It's wonderful. So what was so amazing about this space is I was introduced during my master's, and you would see people run these different workshops, and people would basically come in. You didn't need to hire anyone special, no specific consultant, but they used this one pager called a business model canvas. And what was so great is that it gave people a chance to work it out themselves, to see if an idea if they could validate an idea, or to see if a venture could, if they could generate, if it had value, and if they might be able to generate revenue from it, et cetera. So it was one of those things where it was a kind of a living document, because as people asked themselves questions and dug further into the problem and into their idea or solution, they uncovered more and more answers. And so it was just kind of an incredible space, because you just saw people collaborating and problem solving and taking these healthy risks. So it was just this energizing kind of space. And I thought, why aren't we doing this during professional learning? Because we have ideas as teachers. We want to do stuff. We have ideas on our minds. We have problems we want to solve. And when we say problems, it doesn't need to be something negative. It can be something we want to improve upon, something we want to try out. It could be just a little frustration where we know we need to do something. How could we use this space to kind of enable teachers to work through these things, to collaborate, to problem solve, to take healthy risks? And that's where we got the idea for the Educator Canvas.
This is the Educator Canvas. Like Michelle said, it's a simple one pager. It has structure that you can see, and things feed into each other, but this is an organic living document that encourages you to jump around, to float from one box to the next. And what we have found is frequently that as teachers answer one question, it changes their response to a different set of questions. And that's the whole goal. Like Michelle was just saying, it's about thinking through a problem and thinking through your solution and how you're going to target that solution for your students. Some of the questions might not apply to every single problem because every problem is different. And we're trying to create a document that helps teachers capture as much of that PD inspiration, as much of those ideas as possible. And we've heard from a lot of teachers that it just helped them work out and think through and made implementation that much easier. And we were really fortunate that Carrie and Nikki both partnered with us this last summer to do some book studies in Idaho and in Montana. And I would love to hear from you how teachers reacted to this process of having this document, of how it felt for them, and kind of what you heard from teachers as they worked through this process.
Sure. I mean, I just pulled up the Jamboard that I made when we were talking about the Educator Canvas. So the teachers, my instruction to them was that I was going to follow up in January to give them throughout the school year to work through it. So I'm excited to hear what they've done. But the initial feedback I was just looking at and kind of across the board was sometimes identifying the problem, creating the solution can sound really daunting. And so they were really excited to have something that helped them structure that and be able to like work through it and sort of a process for that. And so they were really excited about that. And then the other thing that I had a teacher say, which was interesting, is she was more excited to go back and use this with her staff as opposed to in her own classroom with her students, because she said they've really focused a lot on project-based learning in their school, but the teachers don't do project-based learning when they're learning. And so she really wanted to take this back to her admin and to her staff and have them figure out how they can implement a project-based learning sort of model among the staff to be modeling that for kids. So I think that there was great things. If the book, the other feedback that we got, that I got from the book was that there's some examples and the book really walks you through how to do it. So if you're not sure where to start, one of the teachers said that she was really grateful for the questions that you guys, the digging deeper sort of questions that are in the book, that really helped her to be able to kind of go through. So that was our initial experiences. I'm excited to see what the teachers in the book study did with this Canvas throughout the year, but Nikki did it as well, so maybe she'll share some of hers.
Yeah, I think the teachers, I think their initial reaction was kind of this deer in the headlights, like, what do I write in these boxes? And I showed when we were planning, the teacher in us wants to start at the first box at the top of the page and start filling things in, one box at a time. And that first box is, what's the problem you want to work on? And they're like, frozen, that they don't have like the best, most complete answer for this. And so it was freeing for me. And then I think Darcy was at that original book study meeting to say, don't do this in order, start with where you are. Who are the resources you're going to tap into? Who is it you want to talk to learn more about this topic? Especially that piece where I could just spend some time reading some blogs, or I could just, scan Twitter to find some new inspiration and some new ideas. And so the big one, and I just pulled up my Jamboard too, Carrie, for their initial reactions to the Canvas after that meeting. And one of them was this concept of time. And we hear this from teachers all the time. I don't have time to work on this. I don't have time to address to this project. But what's great about this entire book, especially with the Educator's Canvas, is that's built in. Like, we understand you don't have the time. What you don't have the time for is to sit in a workshop with that sit and get where someone tells you what they think you need. Whereas we're building in this process is like, if you had all the power to make your time, that's what this Educator's Canvas does, is to help you to break it down into incremental pieces. What can I do now? What can I do tomorrow? What can I do a week from now? And I'm with Carrie. I do plan to reach out to our book study group to see where they are and what became of our time together this summer, because I think this is essentially a graphic organizer, and it's your pad of sticky notes, but maybe organized with certain topics to think through. And it's something you can build on or crumple up and throw over your shoulder and start over again. But it just provides that little planning tool for getting started.
Great. So I wanted to go ahead and just give a brief overview of how this works. So it looks really simple. This actually comes from years of us working with teachers, whether it's been innovation workshops, design thinking, helping other organizations implement. And we kind of noticed some of the blind spots that were kind of preventing teachers from moving forward with their implementation. So just really quick, I'm going to give a run through of what you can kind of expect. So of course, there's developing your problem, what you actually want to work on. Again, the book has a lot of deeper dives into these. What do you want to try? Essentially, that's what the solution is. Come up with a name. And so here are the categories we focused on. Number one is thinking about impact. What does success look like? So often we want to try something, and when we can actually have a picture of what we hope will happen, we're more likely to do something and to try something where we have the, the results we hope to achieve. Also thinking about long-term vision, and this is trying to figure out, where you're at in your project. How does it align with your work? How does it align with your why? Is this a piece to a bigger puzzle? So sometimes when we talk about like something like project-based learning, well, why are we doing it? If the long-term vision is that it really adds value to our students and it's the best way for them to learn and it gives them skills, then when we have that vision, we understand the importance of what we're doing. It helps us easier to think about our goals and what success looks like and what we hope will happen when we do a project. Insights was our chance to really help teachers think about what's already out there. So that inspiration, we all know that education is a very overly saturated industry when it comes to the resource and tools department. Use it. So we kind of get people to go out and see what's out there, what other research is out there, what other experts are out there, and of course get input from our students. We're most likely to succeed in something when we give students that voice. And so this is why we have put that in there. Next is thinking about logistics. These seem really basic, thinking about tasks, resources, and partners. These are actually things that people tend to miss. So even tasks, like especially if there's a group task, I've done this numerous times where people will say like, oh, we're going to work on, we're just going to send something out to the parents. And then when I ask each person what that looks like, they all give me different responses. So the logistics is about getting on the same page. And it's not always that easy. This is something where you need to sit and make sure that you're working together so that you can achieve your project. And then finally, we have execution. And this is just thinking about, and this is really about hitting some of those blind spots that tend to happen. Timeline, teachers have a really bad habit of biting off more than they can chew. You are not going to revamp your year curriculum in 2 weeks. And then for strategy, sometimes we'll go to meetings and teachers have these great ideas and we're like, hey, let's make it happen. And they'll suck in their breath and they're thinking of one person, and we can't have that. We can't have that one person hold you back. We can't have it where you're scared to write that email to admin. So thinking about how you're going to make something happen. And then of course, managing relationships. Education is all about people. We have a ton of different personality in the buildings, and that's not just our students. So with anything you do that's new, that is a change for somebody else. And how do we help manage that change? So just a really quick overview of how do we came up with these boxes, how we came up with these questions. It's because we've tried to help teachers implement many times, and we tried to cover all those areas, all those blind spots, so that you can think through your project and be more successful.
So Darcy, can you give us some examples of teachers that you've worked with and how they have used the Educator's Canvas? What are some projects that you've seen happen with this tool?
One of the things I love about this tool is that it works on any scale and for anyone. And like Carrie was saying, taking it back to your staff and using it with other people. And it works on so many levels. So in one workshop, I had one teacher who was using it. She had never seen Pear Deck, and I was using Pear Deck as part of my presentation. And she decided that she wanted to figure out how she was going to use Pear Deck to embed more student feedback in her lessons. And so she was taking a very simple tech tool and figuring out how she was going to implement it, but she had a very specific purpose in mind of what she wanted to accomplish. I had 2 other teachers who were from the same school, and their goal, they focused on how they were going to help one student who had just finished 6th grade, and they were really worried about him. They came up with a strategy of how they were going to make sure that kid finished middle school. And so it runs the gamut. And we had a technology coordinator in Iowa use this as part of their workshops leading into distance-based learning. The district posed the problem for everyone, right? So everyone had the same problem in their problem box on the Canvas. How am I going to implement distance learning so it's the most effective for my students and their support personnel at home? But then from there, the tech person modeled a whole bunch of different tools. Here are the resources, here are the things that I can help you with. And each team of teachers then crafted a solution that was appropriate to their needs as teachers and to their users, be it first graders versus 12th graders, across the board in the district. I will share a couple examples here quick, just to again show the gamut. This was a teacher who did a book study that Michelle and I were part of this summer. She read Making Learning Magical by Tisha Richmond, and inspired by that book, she also read our book. She used the tools in the Startup Teacher Playbook to help her implement the ideas and all that inspiration she got from reading Making Learning Magical. So her problem was, how am I going to engage all my students, but especially the ones who are farthest behind and undoubtedly frustrated with their learning, so that their learning is student-centered and relevant. And she came up with this whole plan. I know it's really hard to see as we go in. I'll try to zoom in a little closer. She created this whole gamification of her curriculum. She worked with one of her cooperating teachers, and they created this whole plan of how they were going to gamify math. And she and her teacher, in just the first quarter of school, were so successful that the district asked them to share their story of what they had done, why they had done it, and how it was going in their classroom as a district in-person PD day. And so they did a whole day-long workshop where they were sharing ideas and helping other teachers in the district do something similar. This is from the teachers in Iowa. How can we create quality first-class online learning? And they chose to focus on a remote PBL project. They then used this document to organize all of their other documents. And so all of these are little hyperlinks that then take them to their resources. So in addition to using this as a brainstorming tool, they ended up also using it as just kind of a general information gathering tool, so that if someone couldn't find something, they could always come back to this Canvas and find all of the ancillary support documents that they were thinking about. It's hard to, it's so weird. It's hard to explain because it's so simple and works for almost anything that people don't feel like it could possibly be that simple. And I find it sometimes hard to fully explain, because the whole idea, giving teachers seat hours, giving teachers time to work on their own ideas, and giving them credit for professional education is such a simple idea. And yet it just confuses people because it's not how we do things. And it blows my mind that this is not how we do things. So big or small, this can be used for anything. Right now, I'm working with a school administrator who's wanting to give more time to her staff to do problem solving. And so she used the Educator Canvas to plan out how she was going to run staff meetings differently. And then they're each working on a project. I've seen their projects. Many of them are choosing to work on themselves. How am I going to get a better work-life balance? What does that look like? What do I need to do? So whether it's something for yourself, integrating a tech tool, so something very specific and tangible, you know this one lesson, you hate teaching it, the kids don't enjoy it, and you want to revamp that one lesson, that one activity. This works to help do that. It works to help think through reorganizing an entire unit, an entire curriculum.
Great, thank you so much. I think this tool is going to be really valuable. You are going to, as you watch this video, the link to your free copy of this tool will be provided in the description. So if you haven't found it already, grab that. This is a PDF. You don't have to have the book to use the tool, which I think is really cool. We're also providing the link to the Educators Lab website. Michelle and Darcy are, this is their organization, and they empower teachers and support teacher learning. And you can find all their free resources and tools, as well as a link to how to get your own copy of this book, which I think is also worth the investment. So that is the Educator's Canvas, and we're really excited for you to check it out. and we're going to dig deep into more of the startup teacher tools. This was the first one. We can't wait to see you again for next week's issue of Tech Talk Tuesday.